All right. So again, like I said, we are going to go over the financial sector today. That is 4.1. Okay. We're going to hit a lot of definitions before we get into some stuff. So the financial sector, let me just get organized here real quick. All right, there we go. All right, so the financial sector, we need to know okay. Individuals, businesses, governments, they borrow from different institutions and save, right, from the different institutions, right? And so the financial sector is going to be a network of institutions that link borrowers and lenders. This includes banks, mutual funds, pension funds, and other financial intermediaries. Assets are anything tangible or intangible that has value. So think of an asset like all this stuff. If you took all this stuff in your house, right, that you own, right, that would be your assets, okay? Then you go to the bank and all the money that you have in the bank account, and you include those things and the things that you own, like your car, you know, your clothes, your Xbox or PlayStation, whatever. Those would all be considered your assets, okay? Now, interest rates, okay? Interest rates is the amount a lender charges borrowers for borrowing money. It's the price of a loan, right? So like if you go out and you take a loan for, let's say, $10,000, you want to go buy a used car or something, right? And so you're going to take out a $10,000 loan. Well, if you're borrowing that $10,000, the bank is going to charge you for borrowing money, right? And how do they do that? They do that through an interest rate. And they do it for a few reasons. One, because when they get the money back, right, it's not going to be as valuable, right, because the time value of money that we're going to see. And then, and of course, inflation. So they want to be able to purchase what they're purchasing today with what the money they get back later on, right? And then also interest, also, if you default on the loan, right, but you're paying interest, the defaulting is bad, right, when you stop paying the loan. But that kind of helps them just in case you stop paying, right? So it covers people that stop paying so the bank's not out, right? And then interest-bearing assets, so assets that earned interest over time. This would be like an example of this would be if you went to the bond market and bought some bonds, right? So you own like a savings bond, right? A lot of you guys from when you got baptized or, you know, when you were younger, you would get savings bonds and you hold on to those savings bonds and then you cash them in later and then they have some sort of interest rate that's attached to them. So you get paid a higher amount. So like, let's say you bought a $50 savings bond. Well, in the future, that $50 savings bond will probably be worth 75 or something like that. You just hold on to it for like 25 years or however long years the bond matures, right? And so we're going to get into the bond market a little bit later, but just something to understand interest-bearing assets, okay? All right. Now, all right, personal finance and investment. So pretty important to understand, and we've talked about this before, that this is not a personal finance class. So a lot of questions that you may have are personal finance questions, but this is, you know, this is of course macroeconomics, right? So personal finance refers to how people, you know, budget their money, families budget their money, save their money, spend their money, invest their money. You look at like savings accounts, like what's a better savings account, a money market account, or, you know, stuff like that, or credit cards, like what's a better credit card, or you're going to look at loans, you're going to look at the stock market, you're going to look at retirement plans like 401ks and what's good for you based off your tax bracket and stuff like that. And this is managing your assets. And that again is personal finance. In economics, we use the word investment a lot differently, right? We know that investment means when a business starts spending on capital stock, right? Like they're buying stuff to make their business better. And that's investment, right? So again, those two terms may seem very similar, but they're not, right? Like in personal investment, they use personal finance, they use investment as far as like, hey, people, you know, like how much you should pay to go to college, how much you should pay to retire. Well, investment And economics talks about, again, business spending. Okay. All right. Now, liquidity. Now, liquidity is the ease at which an asset can be converted to a medium of exchange. In general, the higher the liquidity, the lower rate of return. So, what is liquidity? It just means to make your money liquid, right? And the purest liquid form of your money is going to be cash, right? Um, so you can look at this chart here, this diagram, right? And you can look at savings bonds, because you need savings bonds, you need time for them to mature. So they're not very liquid. You have to take them to the bank and you have to wait for them to mature, and then you have to cash them in, right? Bonds, same thing. You have to um, wait for them to mature, right? So investment tools, right? Like real estate, like houses, right? Like think how long it takes to sell a house. You just can't just put a sign out in front of the house and sell your house, right? Like people have to come, you have to find a buyer, right? You have to move your crap out of the house. You have to kind of clean the house up a little bit. Um, and of course, the process of someone buying a house isn't just like a next day thing, right? It's not like you show up with a bunch of cash. They have to go secure a loan, get a loan, and then from the loan they need to sign, they need to get a title. And I mean, it takes over a month to buy a house. So houses are not very liquid, right? But however, that is an asset. Okay. The bonds we've already talked about. Stocks, when you buy a stock, right, you can't just buy a stock one day and turn around and sell it the next day. You have to, there's a waiting period actually in how long stocks, like when you buy a stock and sell a stock. So that again is not very liquid, but it takes a little bit of time, and then you can get your money liquid, right? Another one is collectibles, commercial paper, options, right? Those are all things that you can turn around and sell at, real quickly. And then cash, right? Cash is, of course, the most liquid form, right? So, all right. So now we've talked a lot about bonds, right? And so we need to understand the difference between a stock and a bond. And keep in mind that, again, this is not a personal finance class. We're not going to be talking about stock market here, but we do need to understand the difference between the two. Okay. So a bond is, let's say you're going to start kind of a burrito stand right in front of your house. You're going to sell burritos to people that walk by your house, right? It's perfect time since everybody's out walking, right? So you go and you ask your mom, or you ask your dad, or you ask whoever, and you ask for $100 to get your burrito stand started. Now, that would be considered a bond. Whoever, let's say it's your dad who gives you $100 to start your burrito stand, right? And so your dad has now bought a bond into your business. Okay. Another example of a bond, right, would be the school board, right? The school board just passed a few years ago the biggest purchasing bonds in forever, right? Are they, I don't know, $300 million to improve all the schools, right? So they had to go to the bond market, right, and secure the bonds, right? So that's another way of getting that. And then so we took out we bought bonds, right? Or not bought bonds, but we took out the loans, right? And we're paying those bonds back with the tax money that we get, right? So the tax money that they increased for the bond, that's the money that's going back into that bond, right? So the school board went out, they sold bonds, someone went out and bought them, right? And then as the taxpayers raise money, right, or as we move through the years, right, of the 30-year bond, taxpayers are putting money into that bond account, right? And then the people that bought the bonds, they're going to get the initial amount that they put in plus a higher amount, right? So anyway, that's a bond, right? And so essentially they're loans, they're IOUs that represent debt that a business, government, or individual must repay to the lender, right? So that $100 that your dad gave you to start your burrito stand, you're going to pay that $100 back, right? And there might be some interest that's attached to it, right? But your dad can't come to you and say, hey, look, you know what? I really like carne asada burritos, man. You need to start making those instead of the bean burritos that you're making, right? Like, they cannot tell you or say anything about your business. Okay. It's a completely different, separate thing, right? And so now, let's say that your burrito stand's doing really well, right? You're making tons and tons and tons of money, right? Your people lined up out the door, of course, 6 feet apart, right? But you have people lined up buying your burritos. Well, what you could then do, and you're making tons of money, is you could start selling stock into your burrito stand, right? And so how stock works is that it represents ownership of a corporation, and the stockholder is often entitled to a portion of the profit paid out to the individual. So at the end of the year, right, all the stockholders, right, they're going to get a percentage of the profits from that business, right? And so let's say that you sell 49% of your business to the stock market, right? So they're putting in 49%, right, to buy the stock. You get that 49%, but at the end of the year, you're going to take all your profits, right? And you're going to give the shareholders 49% of it, right? So let's say you've made, I don't know, $100, right, at the end of the year from your burrito stand. Well, then you need to pay, you're going to keep $50, right, profit. And then you're going to give the shareholders, you're going to give them $49. And then they divide it up amongst whoever has the most shares or whatever. If it's one shareholder or whatever, however many shareholders there are, right? And so that's, of course, how the stock market works, right? And how stocks work, okay? Now, bond prices and interest rates. So a bond is issued at a specific interest rate that doesn't change throughout the life of the bond, right? So when you go to purchase a bond, right, that bond, and I've used savings bonds, right? But let's, treasury bonds or, like the school example, right? When someone goes and they buy that bond from the school, they're going to get an interest rate that's attached to it. And it's not going to change. It's the same interest rate throughout the life of the bond. Now, bonds are 10, 15, 20-year, 30-year bonds, right? You can buy them at different year levels, right? So when you buy let's say $1,000 bond, right? And it's going to have an interest rate attached to it of 5%. So each year for the 30 years that you have that bond, that $1,000 bond, you will get $50, right? Because you're getting the 5%, right? Now you can cash in that bond at any time that you want, right? But you want to obviously hold on to that bond until it's fully matured, right? So let's think about this. Let's talk about this right now. So let's say that you have a bond at 5%, right? And interest rates then fall to 3%, okay? So people are going to want the 5% bond as opposed to a 3% bond. So what you could do is you could take your 5% bond, right? You take that to the bond market and you can actually sell that, right? And see who will buy the bond, right? And then so you can profit off that quite a bit because the interest rates are lower, right? The point of all this is, right, the thing that we need to understand here is that bond prices and interest rates are inversely related, meaning that if, let me get a marker. Oh, got one right. Let me get one that works. Okay, so got it written right here for you guys. Bond prices are up, interest rates are down, okay? Bond prices are down, interest rates are up, okay? So with that said, if bond prices go up, then interest rates will shoot down, right? If bond prices shoot down, interest rates will go up, okay? All right, so Now, there's some videos that are attached in the PowerPoint. I'd watch those at your own time. Pretty good videos just to kind of get a better glimpse. There's an article in there, the difference between bond prices and interest rates, okay? All right, let's go ahead and move on to 4.2. Are there any questions?
I had a question. Do we need to know about the slide that talks about the risks of buying assets, like the market, default, and inflation risks?
Let me look at that one more time, and I think I just kind of glossed over that one because I don't think I felt like that was important for you guys. Risk of buying assets, yeah, market risk. No, not really. You're all right with missing that one.
Okay.
I mean, you're there. Just look it over, right? Just look it over. So that's slide number 7. All right. Where are you guys? I guess I don't have to have this split screen. There you go. I feel like I'm talking to someone if I split the screen. All right, so let's look over. We're going to go over this presentation today, and then that'll be it for today. All right, so talking about nominal and real interest rates, okay? 4.2. All right, so interest rates and inflation, right? What are interest rates and why do lenders charge them? We kind of already understand that who is willing to lend me, well, let's do this for a second, right? Who's willing to lend me $100 if I'm willing to pay you 100% interest rate? One person. All right, cool, right? And so the one thing there is that I'm not going to pay you back until 2050, right? Still cool with that, Josh? You're cool with that? Okay. No questions asked. Just you'll get $200 in what is it? 20 years, 30 years? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the one thing that we need to think about is what your buying power is now compared to what your buying power is 30 years from now, right? If the nominal interest rate is 10% and the inflation rate is 15%, how much is the real interest rate, right? So remember that nominal doesn't equate for inflation, right? Real equates for inflation. So then we can see there that what's happening or if there's actual inflation occurring, okay? So now the real interest rate is the percentage increase in purchasing power that a borrower pays, and it's adjusted for inflation, right? So your real, and I'd write this equation down, is real is nominal interest rate minus expected inflation, right? So I'll write these right here for you guys. Nominal is real plus expected. Okay. I know I kind of scribbled it there, but you guys can see it there. So those are two equations I definitely would have down, right? So real is your nominal, real is equals nominal minus expected inflation, right? So we're taking the inflation out, okay? And then nominal is real plus expected inflation, okay? So again, so the nominal interest rate is the percentage increase in money that borrowers pay, not adjusted for inflation. Okay? So you can see there that your real rate, right, your real interest rate is going to be 5%, right? From our example from above, right, is that Our nominal interest rate was 10%. You subtract that from our expected inflation of 15%. So our real interest rate is 5%. Here we can see this just kind of in a different format on slide number 6, right? If we've got expected inflation at 5%, real interest rate at 4%, our nominal interest rate is going to be 9%. Okay. So here, if we look at slide number 7, go ahead and look at that. If you guys want to fill it in, I'll give you guys a little bit of time to fill that in, and then just any questions that you guys might have about that one, let me know. Are you guys working on that, or do you want to skip it, or? I really can only see Josh, a Panda, and the names, so.
I'm working on it.
Okay, cool. I think what I can do is I can do this. There we go. Does that help you guys?
Yeah.
You cannot see my face.
Yeah.
Let me know when you guys are done.
Do you know how to do Mr. Diego, I think I'm doing this wrong.
Okay. Which one you on?
You said number 7, right? Yeah, I'm on number 3 of the chart.
Okay. So you got the nominal and you got the real.
What'd
you
you
got
say?
the nominal value and you got the real value, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so set that up. You can use either of those two equations. And then you'll solve for x.
I can't see the equations behind you.
Does that help you?
Yeah.
The ones I told you to write down, but you didn't, I guess. Real is 7. Nominal is 12. So what's expected?
Real is 7, nominal is 12. Wait, hold on, I gotta set this up.
Did you really just pull out a calculator, Nick?
Huh?
It sounds like you're using a calculator.
Oh no, I'm writing. I didn't bring a calculator.
Mr. Jager, for number 2, wouldn't the nominal interest rate be 8% instead of 10?
Let me look at this real quick. Inflation rate is 12. Real is 4. Real is -4. Yeah, it should be 8, right? Because 8 minus 12 is -4. Yes. Why? The next slide has it at 10.
Yeah.
No, it's 8. Right? Does everybody agree? Yeah. Even if you do it down here.
Yeah, I got 8.
Real -4 plus 12 is 8. Yeah. Oh. How you guys doing on this?
I finished.
You're finished? Okay, cool.
Me too.
Annika, you're good? Josh, you went and got water, so you're done, I imagine. Nick,
I'm stuck on 5.
stuck on 5. Okay.
Yes.
So, what is nominal? Put nominal right here. Okay. My equals, your real is 7 plus x, right? So
Okay.
1 plus 7 is going to equal 5.
Did you say 1 plus 7 is going to equal 5?
Mm-hmm.
-2.
There you go, my little buddy.
Oh, what the hell? All right, thank you.
Like you're a math genius, you don't even know it.
I wish.
All right. Let's stop share. All right, cool. Any other questions on those guys? No? Okay. All right. You guys can see me fine, right? Okay. I'll take your silence as a yes.
Yeah.
All right. So last thing we're going to talk about today, and then I'll cut it short or cut it for the day, is time value of money, right? And so think about this, right? Like think about that your money has more value now than it will in the future, right? And that's because of inflation, okay? In the 80s, if you had $100, you could buy a lot more than you can buy now, right? Does that make sense? So now, something to think about, right, is would you rather have $100 today or $200 in 5 years from now? Well, that's a good question. What information are you going to need to be able to answer that question? Are you gonna, like, what do you have to know to say, yes, I want $200 in 5 years? What is it?
Probably inflation rate.
Yeah, you want to know what the expected inflation rate is going to be, right? Because if price levels double, triple, right, are you going to want $100 now or $500 later? I mean, if price levels triple, quadruple, right, you're going to want the $100 now. So you have to know what your value of money is compared to what it would be in 5 years from now, right? And so the cool thing is that you can actually determine this, right? So, and what you would use is the formula called the equation for calculated future value of money, right? And so don't worry, Nick. I know this one looks a little tricky, but it's super easy, right? You're just going to take the dollar value and you're going to multiply that 1 plus the interest rate raised to the number of years, okay? And so what I can do for you here is, can you guys see the board? I can't see the screen, so that's why I'm asking if you could see the board.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so let me just write this down. Okay, so you would write 100, okay? And then 1, so 1's gonna be the same, plus the expected interest rate. So let's, or the interest rate, so let's just say the interest rate is 10%, right? So 10% is 0.1, right? And then you're gonna raise that to the number of years, right? So let's say in 1 year, right? Okay, so you would just add this. This is 1.1 raised to the 1 power, right? So this is gonna be 1.1. 1.1 times 100 is going to be 110, okay? Did that make sense to you guys? Take your silence as a yes.
It does.
All right, so now present value, and so that's going to give you the future value, right? And now what we want is the equation to calculate present value. So present value is going to be a little bit different, right? Present value is going to be the dollar amount over 1 plus interest rate raised to the number of years, okay? And then present value, so if we're going to look at the present value of $100, right? Let's see, you're going to take $100, right? And you're going to put that over 1 plus the interest rate, which again is 0.1 because it's 10%, okay? Raised to the number of years, right? So that's going to be 1, okay? So you guys can see the board. You'll do this first, right? The parentheses first. So 1 plus 0.1 is going to be 1.1. Raised to the power is going to be 1.1. 1.1 divided by, or 100 divided by 1.1 is going to be $90.91. And so this means that the future value of $91, right, is going to be $100. Does that make sense? So you can even do that now, right? So you can go and look what the expected inflation rate or the expected interest rate is of value of money, or I'm sorry, the interest rate of money, okay? And then look at the present value of that and then see how much that's going to be worth in the future. Okay? Pretty cool equations to look at. So those are two different equations you need to know: the present value and the future value. Okay. Are there any questions as far as those two equations or anything that we've covered? No. Okay. All right then. So I guess that'll be it for today. I'll put this video up again just in case you guys want to go over it again. I'll put it up on the YouTube channel. Cool. Questions, comments?
Mr. Jager, do you know yet what day we might be able to review the Unit 3 test this week?
Yes. You want to do it Friday?
Sure.
Oh, no, I can't do it Friday. Okay, look, Annika, here, let me stop recording because